Welcome in to another edition of the Horns Report here on KXAN Live. I'm your host, Billy Gates, and today we're talking the game against Houston coming up on Saturday, 3 p.m. over in Houston. Will be broadcast on Fox. And joining me, as he always does, well, most of the time anyway, Roger Wallace. And interesting, like we were talking before we went on air here, about why Texas and Houston haven't really played since the early 2000s. I mean, you got a pretty interesting story about the reasoning behind that, Roger. Let's hear it.
Yeah, longtime Longhorn fans will remember back in 2002 they played the first of a back-to-back non-conference home-and-home. And at the time, Robertson Stadium on the campus of University of Houston, small stadium. Obviously, the demand for UT, think about 2002 where they were going pretty good under Mac Brown right before they went on that run. And so they were assured that they were going to bring in temporary bleachers so more Texas fans could come to the game. They bought their tickets. Well, before the game, the temporary bleachers were deemed unsafe. So all the fans that had tickets in those bleachers were sent off, either sorry or they set up some watch areas on campus, I believe in Hoffheinz Pavilion, the basketball arena. And at the time, then Athletic Director Dallas Dodd said pretty much, we're not playing at Houston ever again. Well, here we are 21 years later. They're in the same conference for a year. So they are playing at Houston. It is a sellout at their new stadium, not much bigger. TDECU stadium holds about 40,000. They can expand it, but it's not expandable, so they haven't done that yet. So it'll be a sellout, but there'll be a lot of Texas fans. But yeah, so they played that game in 2002. Texas won. Houston came to Austin in 2003. Longhorns won, and then that series has been dormant ever since. Of course, U of H had the bad blood about being left out of the mix in the Southwest Conference as well. So, yeah, it'll take some veteran fans to remember that, but that is a little side story. I don't know if you can renew the rivalry for just one season, but right. If you can, that's what they're doing Saturday.
Yeah, and yeah, just like you said, one season. Houston joined the Big 12 this year. They're going to stay there while, as we all know, Texas and Oklahoma are skedaddling for the SEC, which should be an interesting ride. In our little content thing here, it is clips of Oklahoma. Obviously, fans probably want to forget that 34-30 loss to the Sooners, but they didn't play last week, so this is the moving pictures we have.
Well, this is the last time, yeah. So, and this is what maybe it helped that they had an extra week, not just from a physical standpoint. A lot of guys banged up, but maybe from a mental standpoint. I thought it was interesting. Sark saying today, though, now you got to not let the bye week trickle into game week. And that made me think, okay, yeah, they've kind of been playing with an edge for the better part of 6 weeks. They get time off. Guys get to go home. Jonathan Brooks has his number retired. Quinn Ewers is at the Southlake game, and I'm sure other players went back to their high schools as well. And then all of a sudden they got to lock in. So that's what Sark and his staff, I think, were monitoring very closely today, and will tomorrow, that they're back with that edge that served them pretty well all the way up, and didn't win the Oklahoma game, but still, as poorly as they played in some parts of it, had a chance to win the game.
Yeah, and they're going to have to get right back to it. Sark talked about different injuries during the OU game, and that was another reason why this bye week came at just the right time. It's pretty much smack dab midpoint of the season, and the Longhorns got pretty hurt against the Sooners. Jake Majors, starting center, goes down in the first quarter. He's out for the rest of the game. Jalen Catalon gets kind of banged up. Ryan Watts, game-time decision, did not play. JT Sanders also kind of recovering from an injury. He got a little banged up. So Sark talked about those injuries today at his Monday press conference, and here's a little bit of what he said.
Last week we really limited a lot of guys. We limited Jake to all about nothing. We limited JT to all about nothing. We limited Ryan to all about nothing. We really wanted to try to get them healthy. Today we came back, everybody practiced. Probably the most limited of the group was Cole Hudson, but they all practiced. Now, as the week goes on, I'm going to have to make that decision later in the week of who is really ready to play. I don't think, to be fair to them, that's probably, to give them that chance to really practice on Tuesday and Wednesday in our physical practices to make sure that they're in position to perform and to do it at a high level. But I was encouraged today that they were all out there going. But again, as the week goes on, I'll have probably a very cleaner update of who's really going to be available Saturday. But today was a really good sign.
So there you go. Most everybody practiced that had been on the shelf for Texas, Jake Majors included, Cole Hudson included as well, though I think he still might be a little bit further removed to actually get into play from the sounds of it. By the time we get to Thursday, like Sark said, we'll have a little bit better picture of availability. The offensive line, it's there. I mean, with Majors being out and Hudson being out, that's two guys that have been there for a little bit. That's not exactly ideal, but the bye week certainly helps.
Yeah, and one thing he told us last week is that even though on the depth chart, Connor Robertson is the backup center who came in against OU, but Cole Hudson in reality is a backup center. So had he been healthy, they would have moved him to center. They would have brought in DJ Campbell, who Sark has complimented the last couple of weeks the way he's played at guard. So there's always, as you know, Billy, that trickle-down effect sometimes on the offensive line where the true backup is not necessarily what we see. It's just they reshuffle the deck. Majors will be huge if they can get him back, such a calming presence on the offensive line and a veteran, especially going to a true road game on Saturday. And I think JT Sanders, you saw Gunnar Helm had some breakout moments there, but Sanders clearly wasn't 100%. He's a game changer because of what he can do from that position, his ability to stretch the field. So if they can get those two guys back, sounds like Watts is going to be okay. We think, maybe not for sure, but those are three big pieces that they didn't have either all of or some of or 100% against Oklahoma.
Texas opens as 22.5-point favorites against the Cougars.
That's a high number on
the road. That is wild.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have to think that Dana Holgerson and his crew might be a little miffed by that.
And Holgerson today said it was like he took it right out of the Dave Aranda press conference about, I'm here and just beat Texas. If you don't win another game, it's okay. Just beat Texas and all that. It's the kind of the woe is me home teams against Texas this year, which is interesting because the way Texas has been the last decade or so, it hasn't been the powerhouse that they were from that run. But anyway, I think Dana Holgerson's going to use all that stuff against them. The snub in the Big 12, the fact that they wouldn't play him again after 02-03. He'll pull out. He'll have guys from U of H telling him every possible storyline to get his guys fired up.
It kind of seems like this is the college football season of taking everything personal, right?
Yeah, taking receipts.
Taking receipts. Thanks, Prime. One thing with Houston, their quarterback might be familiar with. If you watched Texas Tech last year and watched him shred the Texas offense, Donovan Smith transferred down to Houston after playing at Texas Tech last season. Sark addressed that at the top of his press conference, saying that, we know about Donovan Smith. Granted, I don't think Houston has the other weapons around him that maybe Texas Tech did last season, but I mean, it's still a guy gonna come in with some confidence after essentially shredding Texas last season over in Lubbock.
Yeah, and I think that's the key, Billy, is that he'll be confident. Now, will the Texas defense, Texas offense force him to play from behind and force him into mistakes, and maybe some of that confidence takes a hit? But to start it, he'll be confident. He has a good feeling because they did beat Texas in dramatic fashion last year in Lubbock. But again, that number's big, and you think about the way they beat Houston. I was driving home from our KBVO game, the Round Rock game on Thursday, and I hear the West Virginia touchdown. I had to make a stop. I get back in the car, and all I hear is crowd noise. And I'm thinking, how in the world did something happen that would make them just play crowd noise from Houston in a game that only had a few seconds left, and then found out what happened. So, yeah, it's amazing how one play can change everything, and Texas was on the wrong end of it 2 weeks ago, and Dana Holgorsen is the first time he's been part of a walk-off touchdown. So they're sitting at 3-3 instead of 2-4. They do have a Big 12 win, and they did hand West Virginia their first Big 12 loss. So mathematically now, Texas does kind of control things in their Big 12 quest.
Yeah, it's kind of like the I don't know if you call it that, the Dana Holgorsen redemption game, beating his old squad on a 49-yard Hail Mary as time expires. Donovan Smith just threw this rainbow prayer up in the air, and somehow Steven Johnson came down with it in the end zone after, like, I believe there was a tip in there somewhere, and just a big pile of people there in that front portion of the end zone. It was your quintessential Hail Mary.
And that celebration penalty at the end of when West Virginia thought they were going to win, and suddenly they're kicking off from the 20.
Yeah.
So you know those little things are so important. But yeah, they'll have a good feeling, and it'll be interesting to see if Texas has worked on some things that they think they can clean up on. And I know one of the things you're going to talk about is what was really hurt them against OU, and that's success in the red zone.
Yeah, red zone offense. I mean, that had to have been a turning point in that OU game, getting stuffed at the goal line 4 times there early in the fourth quarter when they could have taken a lead.
A pick in the end zone or a pick right at the goal line.
Pick at the goal line. Yeah, there's it. Yeesh. Oof, not good.
Yeah.
Going over some numbers here, and the numbers kind of bear this out. Texas tied for 70th in FBS, 7-0, with a 83.3% scoring rate in the red zone. Like 83 is good on a math test, but not in the red zone. And that's 11 touchdowns and 9 field goals. They're tied with 4 other teams for that spot. And if you're wondering who's first in the country in the red zone, it's the Oregon State Beavers. But that's
had to get that in, right?
I had to get it in there. Sark said in the press conference that that wasn't kind of the players' fault. Like, he took more ownership of that as a coach, as a play caller, as a game planner than he did with execution. I mean, from what you saw, Roger, I mean, is that something that that sounds right to you?
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. You can't go Shane Beamer. I don't know if anybody heard him after the Florida game, but the plan was perfect, and the execution was not. Sark's the play caller. He's the first one to say, I need to put them in better places. I'm sure he wasn't happy with the execution on the goal line 4 times, but he even said in one of the more candid moments I've heard a head coach / play caller say, if I could do it over again, I would do something different. Normally you don't hear that. But I think that's what it is. But the guy, I mean, you get 4 cracks, and I'm sure the players would turn around and say, we've got to do it. Mm-hmm. We got 350-pound Tavondre Sweat, 300-pound Byron Murphy, and neither of those guys could find anybody to block because OU pinched the edges and couldn't get anything. So, I mean, it doesn't even matter because most head coaches are going to take the ownership. They're certainly not going to put it on their players.
Right.
But it'll be interesting to see when they get down there Saturday. Do we see something drastically or different in a more subtle way in the red zone? Because you can't keep doing the same things unless you can just execute a little bit better.
I personally love a nice play action pass down in the red zone with sort of like a levels kind of flood concept where you've got different receivers at different depths. But I'm here talking to a camera. I'm not coaching a college football team, so we'll see what happens with that, and hopefully, as far as Texas fans go, hopefully they figure it out, because you really can't have almost an even touchdown field goal split when it comes to scoring in the red zone. You got to put the ball in the end zone.
Yeah, the offense is too productive between the 20s to only have scored 40 points one time the way this Texas team has, and that was against Kansas. So, we'll see on Saturday. Again, this is a Houston team that's given up a lot of points, so I don't know if it'll be a great gauge or not, but you're also at the point, Billy, where now you're at the back half. You got to take care of business. Mm-hmm. They moved up a little bit in the polls. The first playoff rankings will come out at the end of the month, and I would imagine if they don't trip up, they're going to be in position where style points won't matter at this point. If if you can stack the wins, you're going to put yourself in a spot where at least you have a chance. Now, who knows if it comes down to 4, 5, and 6. But if you're in that spot, you've kind of done everything you could after losing to Oklahoma.
Yeah, and then they're playing for the rematch, like kind of what Oregon and Washington are going to play for now that Washington beat Oregon. It just a tremendous game last weekend, by the way, in case you got to watch it. It was
Sark watched. That was one of the ones.
Yes.
Funny, he mentioned the Washington, Oregon,
Right.
Coach of Washington, USC Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, coach of USC.
Yeah.
Funny how that works. But
they were two pretty high profile.
Yeah, those are both pretty good games, other than Notre Dame blowing out his old Trojan team. So Saturday, 3 p.m. The game's gonna be on Fox. Number 8 Texas takes on Houston. Texas, 22.5-point favorite. They're getting healthier as the week progresses. We will have a better idea of who's available when Sarkisian does his Thursday Zoom meeting with the media. So is there anything else about this game, Roger, that kind of jumps out at you?
Well, I even said it for Oklahoma, and that was a pretty evenly matched game. But to me, the mistakes. If Texas makes mistakes, if you're a 22-point favorite, there's a reason for that. So how do you let a team that's a 22-point underdog stay in the game? Mistakes. 2 quick turnovers. Last week gave momentum to Oklahoma. Really bad penalties hurt the Longhorns as well. So again, see how clean they can be against Houston, which they've done for most of the season. And we did find out next home game against BYU will be a 2:30 kick at Royal Texas Memorial Stadium on October 28th.
Another afternoon kick. I'm here for it.
We'll take those. That's
I'm
right.
here for it. Absolutely. All right. Well, that'll do it for this edition of the Horns Report. For Roger Wallace, I'm Billy Gates, and we will talk to you again soon. Thanks for watching.